We're just after 4:30 here, so I think we might as well go and get started. We are supposed to have one other panelist, Jessica, and I'm hoping she'll still be able to join us, but we can get started and she can hop on in. Great. Well, and we'll all have a chance to introduce ourselves, so you can get a chance to meet each other, and so all of our attendees listening have a chance to know who you all are as well. And I'll just get started. My name is Leah Schaffner. I work for Special Olympics Washington, and I work with some of our programs. For one, overseeing our athlete leadership program, which works with some of the awesome athletes who are on the call today. And I'm so excited that you are all here, part of the Athletes Connect panel. I'm really just going to be here to help with the chat and questions. So as we go along, if you have thoughts or questions you want to ask, you can put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. But I'm going to let Shalom take it away and really guide our conversation today.
Leah, thank you very much and welcome everybody to Athletes Connect. In October, we've got some great special guests here that we look forward to sharing our stories. And before we do that though, before we go around and do a round of introductions, I just want to share a little bit about Athletes Connect and how it all came about. So a couple of months ago, a funny thing called COVID came, right, and interrupted all our sports. And the greatest thing about us as athletes, right, and I truly believe this, is that we have one of the greatest things sport has taught us is our ability to adapt, right? And given the skills that we've picked up through sport, I figured, you know what, the people who are going to get through this the best are those who've acquired these skills. And I definitely feel like everybody on this call and everybody on the panel, that's something that we've acquired. And this is a platform where we get together, talk about common trends, right? And how do we stay competition ready, right? And so we represent a variety of sports, a variety of skill sets, and I'm glad this is a commonplace. Every other Thursday we get to come together and share that. So I'm excited for our guests that we have here. We got Candace, Ivanova, we got Cami, and Jessica if she makes it on board. So why don't we do this? Why don't we go around, share a little bit about the sports that we play, the sports, share a little bit about what the Special Olympics means to you, and yeah, just give us a brief update. And so on my end, I'm Shalom. Rugby is kind of the sport that I play with the Seattle Seawolves, as you all know. What brought me here today was I'm just super excited to hear and learn from other athletes, right? How have you coped with COVID? What have you done to stay competition ready? We got fall sports coming up. We just wrapped up our summer sports. Obviously, our world is crazy right now with everything in a virtual environment. So what have you done to stay competition ready? And literally our topic today is around community, right? How has your community supported you through all this, right? And more importantly, I'd love to get some feedback and take it to the board on what we could do better, right? This whole thing was based around hearing from the athletes themselves. What can we do to improve your experience both virtually, and then hopefully when our world opens up pretty soon, right? We all want to get back into some bowling is what I hear, and we want to make sure that when we open up with a bang, right? And so I'm excited about that. And without further ado, Candace, why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Candace, and I'm in Special Olympics over 20 years. I do bowling, basketball, track and field, and softball. And my family is my support, and they help me achieve everything. And it's been a rough year this year. I was really looking forward to do everything in person, but since COVID hit, we had to change everything up.
Candace, that's fantastic. So you mentioned a little bit about basketball. Do you have a favorite team with the NBA and the WNBA happening just recently?
The Seattle Storm, they are 4-time champion. They brought the trophy home.
That's right.
For the NBA is the Los Angeles Lakers because of Kobe Bryant. May he rest in peace. I hope the Lakers bring the trophy home this year.
Candace, I love that. Love that. And how long have you been part of the Special Olympics? Sorry, you might already mention that.
I've been doing it over 20 years.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. Ivanova? you want to share a little bit about yourself, what sports that you play, and why are you so excited about being on this call today?
I'm Ivanova Smith, and I do track and field, golf, bowling, and basketball. And I am excited to be here to talk about advocacy and talk about my experience, my thoughts about this new way of doing things. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you. And I'm sorry about my daughter's. See the little. I have my daughter with me. To see the little Zoom bomber. So you see a little almost 3-year-old running around. That's her.
We most certainly welcome that. And of course, there's a total understanding given the current climate that we find ourselves in. So Ivanova, thank you very much for sharing. You represent a lot of cool sports that I'd love to try someday. Now that I've finished up rugby, I tell you what, I really am excited to try and pick up some new skills, and golf is definitely one of them. So maybe we can catch up when the world opens up around some golf. Give me some lessons. So Jessica isn't online right now, but we do have another guest, Cami. Cami, where do I begin with your career? She is a 3-time Olympian. She's won 2 gold medals, 1 silver, multiple other world championships events that she's been involved with, even nationally. There's just so many to start with. And like many of our athletes, I think one of the greatest things about them looking through the lens of inclusiveness is that COVID has affected us all, whether we're Special Olympic athletes, Olympic athletes. It really doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, we've all dealt with this at an even playing field. And sport, I always say, is the greatest equalizer, right? And so I love that we have you as a guest here, Cami. We're looking forward to learning more about you. Please go ahead, share a little bit about your story, and you can guarantee there'll be some Q&As coming through.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy to be here. I know that COVID has made things quite complicated, but the beauty in it is I'm sitting in California right now, and you're in Seattle, and here we are all together on one screen sharing our experiences, which is pretty incredible. And I'm not sure if we were not in this climate that we would connect and I'd be here today. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in this community that I have not been before. So I get to meet and hear from new people and learn from you guys. I always say the wisdom's in the room. So I'm excited to take some wisdom home today after our time together. But a member of the women's US water polo team for 13 years. Like Shalom said, I competed in 3 Olympic games. Absolutely, love the water. That's how it all started. I started swimming when I was about 3-4 years old, and the rest is history. I played a lot of different sports growing up: volleyball, basketball, softball, but I was always drawn back to the water, and I was introduced to water polo at the age of 12, and I didn't stop after that. It was this perfect combination of basketball and swimming in the water. And I just fell in love, and the rest is history. It's amazing what, sport can teach us and what it provides us with, but friends, education, experience to travel, be in different places, and, even to be on this call here this evening. So thanks for having me.
Cami, that's fantastic. And I'm curious, just with all our listeners, I'd love if you guys could use the chat function. Use the chat function if you play some sort of water sport, and what is that? Or what passion do you have with any of the water sports that are out there? So I'd love to see a poll on how many people are involved in to some capacity of what water sports are out there. And Cami, really quickly, Jessica, I see you're online, and we're going to come to you here in a second. But Cami, do you want to touch a little bit on about you? Obviously, you got to where you are through hard work and everything that you've done. Your journey is amazing. Could you share? We have a lot of listeners here who play a variety of sports, right? And that means a lot to all of us. you got to where you are through acquiring a few set of skills along the way. You briefly mentioned you played a little bit of baseball along the way. Could you shed some light a little bit more on the multiple sports that you took on board from elementary? When did you start? What sport was your favorite before it led to the water?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's always interesting how you fall into whatever sports that you play, but I had a lot of energy growing up. And so I think right away my mom knew that she wanted to get me into something that would burn this incredible amount of energy that I had. So initially I was thrown into the pool, and that, made my energy a little bit more manageable. And I think, it was really, it's cool to be able to grow up in middle school and have the chance to have all these different seasons and try all of these different sports. So, at the end of the day, swimming was the only sport that I did that was an individual sport, but still, you're a part of a team and it's really fun. Volleyball is something that I played. I really, really enjoyed volleyball. Basketball seemed natural, played that for 7 years. Softball, I think for me, I always wanted to be connected to a team. I always wanted to be with other athletes competing. I really enjoyed learning new things. And so anything I could get my hands on, I was doing. And then when I got into high school, I really started focusing on just swimming and just water polo. But with that being said, I found a way to go to my high school practice, and then I would go to club practice, and then I'd go to the boys club practice, and then I would go to masters in the evening. And if I could be in the pool and playing all the time, I found a way to do it. And I'd leave in the morning at 6 a.m., do morning practice, do all day at school, and then not come back until 9 p.m. at night. My mom would just leave dinner on the counter for me, because if there was a pool to be in, I wanted to be there. And if I wasn't in a pool, I was in the ocean surfing or, doing open water swim. It's anything that I could be to be in the water. So sport was really a true love and a true passion. I wasn't doing it for any exterior reason of like, I want to get this, and this in life, so I have to play sport. It was really just a love of mine and something that I wanted to pour myself into. I shared a little bit about, I have learning disabilities. So the classroom is really a challenging place for me. Not a place that I felt comfortable whatsoever, but I didn't realize that my learning disabilities were building a superpower for me. And that superpower was resilience and focus and the ability to have a really great work ethic. Things didn't come easily for me. So when I was in a place where it felt natural and comfortable and did come a little bit easier to me, it was really easy to use that work ethic that I really trained in the classroom, in the pool. And it absolutely led to success in, competing in college, then competing for Team USA for 13 years.
Wow. Incredible story. And it looks like we have other people on our listeners here who are quite related to the water as well and have some background in swimming, who love it. We got some representatives that represented Special Olympics at the games. So well done to those who I admire those who are really great in the water, because I'm not. Jessica, I can see you're online. Thank you for joining us. Do you want to share a little bit to our listeners about where you're from, what sports you play, what county? When I say where you're from, let's say what county you're a part of? You're on mute. Jessica, you're on mute. There you go.
I'm Jessica River, and I'm from King County, and I'm the administrative assistant for South African Leadership, or SAIL. And it's a coalition of South Africans that do legislative advocacy and go to the Olympia and advocate for bills that include change or passed. We just focus primarily on legislative advocacy.
And how long have you been involved with self-advocacy and in leadership?
I've been involved since 2011.
Wow.
I've been the coordinator for the group for 2 years today.
Jessica, I totally resonate with, the self-advocacy and leadership roles and the role that you both play, even with you, Ivanova. I know you're involved with that as well. I totally think that, now is a more crucial time for that role, right? Was given all the participants that are out there deprived from sports, and there's not much opportunities elsewhere. But your leadership is important, and we truly appreciate that. So we want to let you guys know that up front. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Well, let's dive into our discussion today. So the way this is going to work, we've got about, let's say, 10 or 15 minutes before we go to some Q&A. I encourage all the listeners to use the chat function, type in your questions. I promise we're going to get to you. All the panelists will get a chance to answer all your questions to come, and I can already see them coming through. So keep them coming. So let's open it up. Candace, we'll begin with you. Our topic today is around the importance of community. What does community mean to you?
The whole
community, working with your team?
working with my team, we over the years did a lot of fundraising and to keep our team going. Like we did like Seas Candy and car washes, and so Papa Murphy cards, or
Helping your team.
and helping my team, like talking to other teams that have sponsors to help keep Special Olympics going, and have your family by your side, and then being team captain is being with your team and then cheering your team on, but not only cheering other teams on also, and can give them the congratulations if they get like gold, and if they don't do so good, keep it going and you'll get it the next time.
Yeah, that's so true. Candace, like some of my best memories besides being on the field are a lot of the events that we did off the field, right? You mentioned a little bit about car washes, fundraising events, raising sponsorship, Olympics program, across the board. Those are all fantastic opportunities and a great way to get to know your teammates and the community that you're connecting with, right? Some of the best connections are done off the court or off the field or whatever it may be, off the pool, or whatever the situation may be. So I could totally relate to that. Ivanova, what about you? What does community mean to you? Thank you, Candace.
You're welcome.
So for me, community means it's a world around me, and it's the different things I do out in the world, like my Special Olympics team, and I also am very involved with different self-advocacy organizations, Self-Advocates and Leadership Sale, and People First of Washington. Going to church, that's a big part of my community. It's just different things I do in my life that I do out with other people. Out in that I get home. I'm blessed to have access to, and right now for a lot of people, including myself, that community has become virtual. So I guess it's a virtual community now, and it's really about the connections you have with the people in the world around you, and what relationships and things that you've built with that. And I want to make sure that the community is accessible, and that for a lot of people it's become inaccessible, which I do find as a problem. And so I want to get back to being accessible.
Ivanova, that's such a great word, right? When you talk about community as being accessible, especially given the current environment that we find ourselves in. So the fact that you've made yourself available to that capacity, the fact that you're involved in other communities such as your church environment, like the balance that you get from that, the perspective that you must get from that, that is awesome. That is awesome. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that I'm inspired by just by listening about the different communities you're involved with. What else does that mean to you? Like what rewards do you get out of it being involved in various communities?
I think the awards that I get out of it, the friendships I build,
Yeah.
it's the knowledge I gain, it's the different perspectives I learn about, and it helps me think and grow as a person. It also helps with my mental health, like when I'm out there with people.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a huge one, right? Especially, again, it's a current environment that we find ourselves in. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jessica, you're involved in a variety of different communities, whether that's through the Special Olympic sports that you play, South Asian and leadership. What does community mean to you?
It just means like the partnerships that I build throughout the communities I'm involved in, and each group that I'm with has different people, so I connect with different friends and coworkers, and my church family is a different perspective, and I also have them to communicate with as well. So it just means making connections and keeping as strong as possible with whatever group we're with. And the Scout Coalition is over 200 members. So that's a big community to be involved with, but it's always good to have friends to connect with.
That's so awesome. You mentioned different groups to connect with. You mentioned partnerships. I mean, both with Nova and Candace, all three of you did a fantastic job explaining what a community is. I think it definitely does resonate with a lot of our listeners, right? What community means to us and how Special Olympics programs and various other communities that you guys are all involved with, and what community means. Cami, I'll be interested to hear, like, given COVID, right, which is in the forefront of everybody right now, right? It's affected everyone in some capacity. Cami, what are your thoughts on how does sports play a role in the community, right? We all play sports here, right? And something that we all have ties to some capacity. What are your thoughts on how sport will bring a community together, I guess, and tie COVID to the whole thing? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, even too, coming from, since I've retired in 2016 and finding, leaving that community, that everyday practice training with your team, your coaching staff, and all of the resources you have, being a part of that, my water polo community, to now being retired and having to figure out and reconfigure what is your sports community, outside of that. And I think one of the coolest things, you guys, that we receive from being a part of sport and being a part of athletic teams is that we all have a shared experience on this call. We all have been teammates. We have all been athletes. And that's something that has brought us here today together. And that's something that we all have in common. And there's something really neat about having a shared experience with someone, because you can connect. And there's a sense of trust and knowing that's in that. There's something that we don't even have to verbally communicate, and we already share because we've experienced it in relatively the same way. I mean, obviously we're all having our own experiences, but it's under the same umbrella. We've all kind of experienced that. So coming out of, a lifetime of elite athletics, or a lifetime of sport, and 13 years at the highest level, I had to figure out kind of what was my new community that wasn't the national team anymore, because I wasn't there anymore, but I was still an athlete. I felt very much like an athlete inside of my soul and self. So what did that look like? And so I joined some other fellow Olympians, retired Olympians, and I swim with 4 or 5 other fellow Olympians every morning. And it's nothing too intense. We're not training for the Olympics anymore, right? But we show up and we chat, we jump in the pool and we just float and we move, and how important physical activity, going back to that mental health, is important for us to keep our minds clear and our bodies healthy and happy and moving. And just that little bit of back and forth on the pool deck, or if we're in the ocean for the day before we swim, is so important to feel that you're a part of something and you're connected and not disconnected. You know, we're all human and it's in our nature to be connected. We're not meant to be alone. So community is so important. And so I think how sport has helped in community is just all of these connections with other people. I mean, sport is so broad and so wide, and so many people have been a part of it, whether they were a fan or a participant, an athlete, a coach. And so there's always a shared experience and a connection with sport, which is really neat to tap into. And I'm finding it in a whole different way post my career with the US team.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, the fact that getting out of your comfort zone, right, was something that I heard from that, and finding your way to stay connected outside of what you're used to or accustomed to. I love that you've gotten yourself tied in with a different and a variety of other communities, and I think that's really important, right? It gives you that sense of belonging, is what I heard there, right? It gives you that sense of, hey, here's who I am, here's something else that I can find out about myself, what else is out there. And so I love that challenge, and I'll definitely take that on board myself. Candace, what sports are you looking forward to coming out of COVID, right? If there was a sport or a sport event that you enjoyed, whether it be something that the Special Olympics had on offer, is there a particular sporting event or sport itself that you're looking forward to the most, that brings people together? I know that's a really weird question right now, given the current environment we find ourselves in. Optimism.
Bowling.
Bowling?
Yeah, because usually the Bolero usually has those big bowling tournaments every year. We have them. They have like 2 chefs, 3 chefs, because there's so many people that come from Eastern Washington, and it's really good, and it's really cool that you get to see everybody that you see during track season. For basketball, for softball, you don't get to see them very much because you only get to see them one time for the regional or for the state. And so bowling is one thing I really would like to see everybody again when everything is back to normal. And you get to talk to your teammates, and you get to talk to other teams that you've seen over the years, because you haven't seen each other in months since the pandemic happened. So,
like I said, I'm excited to see bowling. You're making me excited, Leah. We gotta organize a bowling event to go to once the world opens up. Ivanova and Jessica, this could be a question for you both. You both know that in Seattle, our sports community is very close, right? All our teams are very close knit. We're all tied together to some capacity. We all love attending each other's games, and we're right behind each other. How do you think, what sports out there are you most excited about seeing again that brings, the Seattle sports community together? Or
Well,
I should say.
I'm a little bit different because I don't play a sport, but I'm excited to go back to the Olympia state capital and advocate for to our legislators. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah. Love that. Ivanova?
Well, I'm really looking forward to any of the sports we're being able to do in person again. I really love basketball, and I really hope that I'll get to play basketball again without any restrictions. Because I part of basketball is you got to play with a team. You can't really play basketball without. You can't really play basketball alone. You have to play with teams. You have to play on a team, and I really miss my team. I really miss that learning teamwork and learning how to keep your cool on a competition, and that physical agility where you got to run and then you got to be strategic and all that. And so I really want to play basketball again, and I would really like to do track and field again too.
That's
I miss both of those.
That's awesome. I want to be able to go back a little bit towards the community and what you mentioned about your involvement. You're involved in some incredible different communities that are out there. How important is it, or how, to the listeners who aren't involved as much as you are, how can we get involved? What are some ways that some of the listeners can get involved?
So if you're wanting to get involved with legislative advocacy, I would highly encourage you to join our Self Advocates and Leadership Coalition. We do a Zoom. We're all on Zoom now, so easily get Jessica and I could easily get you the link for our next meeting, which will be next Tuesday from 1 to 4. And we talk about these policies, and we talk about policies that affect all people with different types of disabilities. We're fully led by people with disabilities. I'm actually the chair of Self Advocates and Leadership. And, another thing you could do is you could write your legislators and let them know how you're feeling about all this and what you would like them to help with and change. You can email them. It's an easy way to email them. You just put in their first name and then their last name and then .gov, .wog.gov, Washington. But there are a lot of different ways that you can talk with your legislators and let them know how you're feeling, because they have a lot of power in the situation. And when talking about community, I think it's really important that that we get back to being together again, because isolating people doesn't help the immune system. I don't think separating people from their community helps the immune system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right, Ivanova. And to both you and Jessica, who are heavily involved in the South Advocate and leadership, we'll make sure that, Leah, that we send to all the follow-up, to all the listeners, a bit of a follow-up more on some of the leadership calls that you guys have and how to get more involved in that. Because I definitely feel like, we're starting to see some small things open up right here in Washington. And as things hopefully get better and better, we can, like we said, when events start happening again, we'll be off to a good start, right off the bat, of some great hard work that's done on the front end of leadership. So thank you for that. It means a lot. So Kemi, coming back to you, we really appreciate. We got about 5 more minutes before we open this up for the Q&A, and they're coming in hot with so many great questions that are out there we got to get to. But before that, we want to get to know a little bit more about you and your journey. You've obviously done an incredible job to get to where you are, as well amongst with all our listeners and athletes that are out there in their own right. Could you share a little bit about some of the toughest things that you've gone through that you remember in your journey, and how you overcome those, maybe the toughest point in your, I guess, from an athlete standpoint? What was one tough thing that you had to overcome that will definitely resonate with our listeners, especially as
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely quite a few moments that were challenging throughout my athletic journey. And I think two that really come to mind right now, just as we're chatting. I think one of the things that I learned when I was in college, I had the honor of being the captain of our I went to the University of Southern California, USC, and I had the honor of being the captain for the squad there. And I had this vision in my mind of what the perfect captain or leader needed to be. And I felt that I had to be what I thought that was, right? I thought I had to fit myself into a mold and change things about myself to be this perfect leader, right? So I started changing the way that I was showing up to practice, the way that I was communicating. I put all this pressure on myself to be perfect, to never make a mistake, and really be something that I was not. I was trying to be a smaller version of our coach and trying to be this kind of storybook leader that you see in the books and movies, and it was so far away from being who I was. And I was getting further and further away from my connections with my teammates because I wasn't being myself. And relationships and connection, our community, what's most important and valuable to me as a teammate and just even as a person. And I finally kind of came to and woke up and realized that the strengths that I possess and even the weaknesses and challenges that I possess is enough to be an incredible leader for any sort of community that I was involved in, right? And so, when we can really lean on our natural leadership skills, and we all have the capacity to lead, we all have strengths within us, we all have something we can bring to the table, and we all have weaknesses, which provides other people to come in and use their leadership skills to raise us up to a level. So when I kind of finally had the light bulb moment, the aha moment of like, I just need to be myself, and that's simply enough. And that will allow me to be the best leader for my team and to allow myself to let other people come in and lead alongside of me, because shared leadership is the ticket to success, 100%. We cannot do it alone, even though we want to sometimes. It's always best when we can share that leadership role. So one, trust in the leadership skills and the strengths that you bring to the table. Own your weaknesses and challenges, advocate for yourself and ask for that help needed, and know that you can do much greater things and have a far greater reach if you're working together as a team.
Wow, there's some powerful takeaways there. And I totally can resonate with that. And I'm very sure that a lot of our listeners feel the same way. So thank you for sharing some insight into your wonderful career. I know many athletes on here as well have had established careers themselves in the many sports that they take part in. And I'm sure we've all taken away some nuggets away from this panel today. So thank you again. Leah, why don't we dive into our 99 plus chats that we have going on here. Do you want to start going through some Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of questions, excuse me, which is really great. And if you have more, keep throwing them in there. So I'm just going to start with this one from Christina. I know you had a few questions, Christina, but the first one that I saw, which was great, was what does self-advocacy mean to you? So maybe Ivanova or Jessica, one of you could answer that one.
I'd be happy to answer that one.
Go ahead, Linda.
Unless Jessica wants to do it. Okay. So self-advocacy for me has always been about you're advocating for your own needs and you're speaking up for yourself, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to use words. People can self-advocate through their body language. My daughter does it all the time. There's people who self-advocate, it just, letting people know what you want to be done. And it could be for really small things like what type, what sports do I want to play? What sports make me really happy? To really big things like what type of medical care do I want to have? What type of housing do I want to have when I'm older? So it encompasses a lot of different things. And it can go into community advocacy where you're advocating for your community and your peers and policies that affect yourself and your peers. And so self-advocates and leadership say, we do self-advocacy, we do legislative self-advocacy where we're advocating on policies that affect us. And we say, well, we like this policy, but we don't like that policy. We've been able to we've been able to pass a lot of bills one's around respectful language. Like we don't like the words like the R word being used in our medical documents, and we were able to get those passed to get all those bad offensive words out of our medical documents. Like that's just one example of a big time self-advocacy that involves a lot of different community members working together. But self-advocacy can be as simple and just as important as, you know, what type of, when do I want to go out today, or when do I want to get up? When do I want to get up in the morning? When do I want to go to bed? So that's what self-advocacy means to me. It's about getting your own needs met.
That's awesome, Ivanova. Thank you so much. You had a lot of really cool points that you shared in there, and I took some notes because I'd really love to share all of the thoughts that you're all sharing today with everyone listening. So thank you so much for that. I think that was all incredibly well said. Our next question is from Kim, and she said, everyone shared their reasons why community is so important. I find having to be solo in a small bubble and virtual quite lonely. And so how are you coping with the solo aspect during our current times? And that's a question for anybody.
Well, I can't, Jessica, and I would just say that being around like your people that you connect with at work, like as much as possible, like being a member of a team, like to make you not feel isolated and lonely, that helps a lot. And also trying to do like online virtual activities like painting or like extra like maybe poetry or a hobby that you have that would help like be interactive with other people online and virtual.
Jessica, that's some really good advice. Getting involved in hobbies and staying connected. That's what everyone's doing right here too, right? Being a part of this group and all of our panelists today are, you are all very involved. And so I think it is of course really hard right now, but you're definitely doing the right things, which is great. Does anyone else have anything they want to share on that point or on that question?
You can call your friend.
I would just.
You can call your.
You both have things to share. Go ahead, Candace, and then Ivanova will come back to you.
Call your friends and Zoom chat with them and see how they're doing and see how they're holding up with the pandemic and see if you can help each other. And also help with the community with the food drive and making sure all families have something on the table.
That's awesome. Those are really good points to, reach out to people and help them make sure they're feeling okay and volunteering and showing that to your whole community, even people that you're not as close to. That's great. Thanks, Candace. Ivanova, did you want to share something about that too?
Yeah, so I'd say, to be honest, I've been having a really hard time with the lockdowns and things because I don't like not being able to do things in person with other people. And it feels very isolating when you're not allowed to do that. Like I used to do, like my job used to be in person. The sale meetings used to be in person and, my sports. And I've been struggling to get into the virtual sports thing. I don't know how it works really well. So it's been a real challenge for me to get back into that community. And so it has made it really hard. And I kind of wish that there were better ways to, I did wish there was better ways that we could have handled this, that didn't force people to be separated from each other. Like, I really don't like this whole everyone I know needs to be away from me thing. It kind of makes me think of the past in my childhood where all the kids wanted to stay away from me. You know, it makes you have that feeling again. And so I usually try to just really cling to family, and at least I'm allowed to be with my family and I can vent to them. And so I vent to my family a lot about the frustrations, but I miss being around my friends. Like, I really want to see my friends again and play sports with my friends. And I would like to figure out a way we could be with our teams in the virtual competitions. Like, I want to figure out a way we could be with our teams somehow, like either find a virtual way to connect the teams together or something. I don't know how you would do that, but I really miss that aspect of the camaraderie and the team sports aspect.
Absolutely. I think you
So,
summed up how a lot of people are feeling really well, Ivanova. And absolutely, I think your idea for getting your team together, and it kind of goes to Candace's point, you know, of keeping in touch with all of your teammates. So Ivanova, maybe we can talk more about that and see if there's a way that we could work on getting to start with your team together virtually. Okay, there's
the closest I've seen is we did these little competitions on Facebook. Like, we had these little exercise competitions, and my teammates like challenged me to jumping jacks, and so I made a video of myself doing jumping jacks. But it'd be cool if we could do competitions that way or something.
That's awesome. And I'll share a little bit more in a follow-up email about the virtual fall games, which I know can be sometimes challenging to understand, but are hopefully kind of a version of that. Okay, I'm going to go on to another question. We have a lot of them. Okay, so this one is from Becky. She said, I am a parent of a Special Olympics athlete. How did your parents and supporters help you deal with disappointments and with success? I like that question, Becky. And anyone can answer this one.
I will just a little hard not seeing everyone in person, but just be supportive and be there for the athlete, and just encourage them to keep going, and call them and see how they're doing, and try to stay in touch with all athletes. So hopefully when everything's better, we can see each other in person, go to a hockey game or something like that.
Absolutely. Does anyone want to answer that one? How your family members or other supporters have helped you?
I'll hop in here. It's really interesting. I'm the only athlete in my family. So my parents didn't have a real connection to necessarily how training or games or the flow of that went, but they knew me really well. And so that was an absolute positive. But I think, at the end of the day, my parents' biggest kind of expectation was just that I tried my best, and that I felt that I gave everything that I could to the opportunity. And if that was met, then it didn't matter the outcome, as long as that I showed up and gave it the best that I could. And, there's a lot of learning lessons throughout our lives and in our lives in sport as well. But I think, my parents really gave me the opportunity to want to do it for myself, right? There was no exterior pushing or you have to do this or you have to it was just kind of it's up to you. If you commit to a team, you need to follow through with that commitment, and you need to show up and give 100% every time that you're out there. And sometimes it's going to hurt really bad, and sometimes it's going to be really exciting. And my parents were doing a lot of things for the first time. You know, they didn't know anything about, my mom doesn't know how to swim, so she fell in, I'd have to grab her out of the pool. So that's how foreign my world is to my parents. And so we'd all kind of like show up to the pool deck, and it was like, do you have the right bathing suit? Do you have what you need? Okay. And we were all just a little bit nervous and uncomfortable, but like we did it together. And so I knew that I always had them on my team, and that they were going to be on my side, and we're going to figure it out regardless. And sometimes there's a few bumps in the road, but I knew that they'd stay consistent. So.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. Okay, and our next question, Shalom, this one is for you from Austin. He says, what advice can you give us flag football athletes we can use in our future of flag football playing? And flag football is one of the virtual fall sports.
The advice that I would give to prepare for flag football in the fall would be the first one is teach me. I'd love to learn how to play flag football, especially with NFL back on TV and college football. I've gained a new profound interest in football. But in general thoughts from what I do know about flag football, the advice that I would give is to always work on your evasion skills. So I've always grown up to be one of my school teachers or one of my coaches always asked me who loves playing tag in the playground, and my hand went up because I loved playing tag. And it's like, today we're going to play a bunch of games on how to get away from him or her. Right. And so I really enjoy that aspect. And from that aspect birthed the skills that I carried throughout my career to be able to be great at evasion. And so if I know a little bit about football, flag football, I think the ultimate goal is to not get tagged, right? Or not get your flag taken off you. So if you're good at that, I think you'll do all right come the games this fall. Hope that answers it.
I think that's great. Okay, let's see. A question for Cami from Marcia. She said, what is your favorite workout for cross training in the off season? Also, how do you keep yourself and your teammates both inspired and motivated, especially during challenging times? And there were Marcia and a few others were excited that you were also a team captain. And so I think we have a handful of team captains here, and Candace is a team captain. So how do you keep everyone motivated?
Awesome. So cross training, I don't feel like there was a lot of free time. We were constantly always training. But now that I'm out, I love riding my bike. I love surfing. I love rollerblading. I love moving in every capacity. I love playing tennis, all the fun stuff that we didn't get to do while we were training full time. That's how I enjoy staying in shape now. It's, if you're having a hard time getting moving, start with what's fun for you and the rest will follow. And then how do you keep your teammates motivated, inspired? I think as a team captain, something that was really important to me is take the time to get to know who you're leading, right? So I always made the time to get a coffee or a meal or go on a walk or do something that was really one-on-one, and time that was held to get to know each one of my teammates, even if, you know, we had nothing in common, you know, which we all are on teams with a bunch of people that, you know, you're going to have best friends on teams, and you're going to have people that you share a common goal with and probably wouldn't hang out with outside of your sporting realm, right? But I always made time to get to know them. I wanted to know what was their family like. I wanted to know what motivated them. I wanted to know what their fears were. I wanted to know what they were excited about getting into our season. I wanted to know what were their challenges. I wanted to know what was easy for them. I want to know how to communicate with them when the time, you know, when they really needed help. So I started to kind of learn all these things slowly but surely about all of my teammates in one way or another. And I was always very aware of what was going on. And so that way I could personally connect with each one of them. And then the other way that you can show up collectively is leading by example. So everyone's watching you as the leader. And so how you prepare yourself, how you organize yourself, your attitude when you come onto the pool deck, how you communicate with others, how you take on failures yourself, and how you interact with others. Does that mean you're going to be perfect? No, but how are you leaning and delegating and sharing responsibility? How are you creating space to receive support yourself? And how are you leading by example? And I think for me, every day was purposeful. I made sure that everyone felt that even in the longest stretches where we were not winning or we weren't training against anyone else, it was just us every day, same pool, same people, just grinding, making sure that everybody knew we were there for a purpose. And the way that we put on our suits, the way that we put on our caps, the way that we take care of our equipment, the way that we jump into the pool, where our minds are at, what we're putting in our body, how are we hanging out with other people, like all of that was purposeful. And it all matters. And so that was really important to help keep that purpose alive, not only for my teammates, but for my coaches as well, and how we showed up each day.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. That's great. I think it's a really important thing to think about, not just as the team captain, but as anyone wanting to be involved in their communities and support their friends and teammates, which I know based on everything everyone has said here is a priority for you. We only have 2 minutes left. The time in our panels always just flies by. So I think that's maybe a place to wrap up. We have a few more questions in here, but I know we could probably keep going forever, and I so appreciate all of you taking this time. I wanted to mention that I plan to send a lot of information to everybody who's here. So I know we're talking about how can we be involved. There are a few questions about resources out there. I'll send information about what Special Olympics is offering. So as some of you know, we just started our virtual fall games. You can still register for another few weeks. However, if you register by tomorrow, you will receive a swag bag in the mail, which will have a flag football if that's what you sign up for, or basketball if that's what you sign up for. So there are a lot of opportunities. I'd really recommend it. That's a way to stay involved and have some more connection.
They actually get you a basketball? Because that was I don't have my own basketball hoop. I don't have my own basketball.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. So
I could there are hoops in the by the park that I can walk to.
That's awesome. That's our hope, because I know, we started our virtual seasons in the summer, and that was a big barrier that a lot of people ran into. So yeah, Ivanova, I'll send the link out to everybody. And that's a huge benefit for this season that will help you get the equipment that you need so you can still be practicing and staying active at home. Great. And then I'll also send the information about SAIL, Self-Advocates in Leadership. Ivanova and Jessica shared some really awesome information about SAIL. It's a really cool group. I've listened in on one of their meetings, and they have so many members. Jessica, you said over 200, is that right?
Yes, 200 members all over the state of Washington.
Wow, that's awesome. So they're all over Washington, and it makes it so much easier to join on now that we are virtual, as you said earlier, Cami, even though this isn't our preferred method of connecting with everybody. And then the one other thing I wanted to mention, I think goes along pretty well with SAIL and advocating for yourself, being involved in your community, is that, as a lot of people probably know, elections are coming up really soon in just a few weeks here. And so, I think it's really important that everybody is able to share their opinions. And we all probably have different opinions and different things that we're thinking about and caring about, but it is really important to be involved and to share your feelings and share what you want, as Ivanova explained, and what it means to be a self-advocate. So I also have a little bit of information about voting and how that works in very plain language, easy to understand for everybody. Shalom, do you have anything else you want to add before we finish up for today?
No, nothing but a deep gratitude and thank you to all the panelists for your thoughts, your feedback, your experience. It's been very helpful to all the listeners, and I'm truly appreciative of you guys. Thank you so much.
I agree. Thank you all for taking the time. We so appreciate it. I know, Cami, there were a few comments in there about unified partners, and people are excited to meet you. So you're welcome into our community, and we're so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. This was awesome, and I'm so glad to be a part of the team. Thanks, guys.
And Jessica, Ivanova, Candace, thank you guys for continuing your leadership and sharing your involvements and a little bit about yourself. You all had some awesome ideas and things to share.
I have one thing to say. I wanted to let Shalom know I have like over 100 medals.
What's
100
that?
medals?
Yeah, I have over
Wow.
100 medals.
Candace, we need to catch up.
We could spend all day here sharing.
It was nice to meet Cami.
It was very nice meeting you both, and thank you for allowing me to be on this panel.
Thank you.
Likewise, guys. So good to meet all of you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Leah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.